Rada by som vám predstavila ďalšiu dlhoročnú kolegyňu, priateľku Martinu Bagatin, ktorá od roku 2003 je zamestnaná v Centrálnom laboratóriu pre konzervovanie a reštaurovanie v Chorvátskeho štátneho archívu v Zágrebe. V súčasnosti pracuje ako hlavný konzervátor, reštaurátor s materiálmi ako papier, kresby a iluminácie v knihách a rukopisoch, ako aj pergament, tlače, modrotlače a mapy. V roku 2008 bola vybraná ako jedna z účastníčok školy konzervovania a reštaurovania fotografických materiálov, ktorú organizovalo Getty Conservation Institute vo viacerých krajinách Strednej Európy, počnú s Bratislavou, a na Slovensku od roku 2008 do roku 2015 boli tieto školy aktívne. Od tej doby aktívne rozvíja svoju odbornosť konzervátora, reštaurátora v oblasti reštaurovania fotografií. Zúčastnila sa mnohých konzultácií, workshopov a kongresov, či už ako poslucháčka alebo ako lektorka. V roku 2014 absolvovala v USA v Northeast Document Conservation Center v Andovery v Massachusetts dvojmesačnú stáž, kde mohla zdokonaliť svoje konzervátorské a reštaurátorské schopnosti v oblasti fotografií. V súčasnosti sa podieľa na vzdelávaní ďalších odborníkov a zainteresovaných jednotlivcov v tejto oblasti. Prosím, privítajte Martinu.
Hello, it's a great pleasure to be with you. So I'm grateful for this opportunity actually, and today I will present my work since I start to build my knowledge as a photograph conservator at the Croatian State Archive. So the presentation focused on the history and development of education in the field of photographic conservation at the Croatian State Archive. And it will cover professional training and development, and as well as the ongoing experience that accompany the advancement of photographic preservation programs. So, first of all, I would like to introduce the photographic collection of the Croatian State Archive. So, the photographs have themes significant to Croatian's history, so they are preserved in the photothek, and the majority of the approximately 1,300,000 photographs, which accompanies various formats and techniques. So they are produced by the Photo Documentation Agency, which documented all significant events in Croatia and the former Yugoslavia from 1939 to 1990s. So other photographs date from the mid-19th century to the present and require special care due to the diverse techniques used in their creation. So for preservation purposes, the laboratory conducts protective copying and scanning of negatives on nitrate and acetate basis, color transparencies and glass negatives, as well as producing contact prints from glass negatives and reconstructing damaged negatives. Users of the photothek have access to reference aids, contact copies, and digitized collections, as well as the option to create copies in various techniques and sizes as well. So in the conservation lab of the State Archive, the following activities related to the protection of photographic materials are carried out. So establishing requirements for the Croatian State Archive, then developing standards for other custodians of written and photographic heritage in Croatia, conducting research, and providing professional training through workshops and this professional training is a huge help to our colleagues from other institutions to develop their knowledge on the archival material. So through these years of training, I became more and more familiar with the way of processing and protecting photographic material. We was taken through the history of photographic processes and show the characteristics of each type, which can aid their identification. So description of the different processes and their development was used to introduce the common types of deterioration associated with each process type. So little by little, from fundamentals, we went to advanced photograph conservation practice, and through all these years, we gained the experience needed in our daily work. So when summarizing the description of the most important items, they would be identification of different photographic processes, treatment approach of photographic materials, condition control, estimate and documentation, and of course, preservation standards. So a training program in the conservation of photographic materials, along with the key components for educating colleagues in the archives, are introduction to photographic materials, so overview of different types of photographic materials, identification and assessment, so techniques for identify various photographic processes, handling and storage, so the best practices for safe handling of photographic materials, cleaning techniques, dry cleaning methods, use of solvents for stain removal, also digital preservation, importance of digitization for preservation. So best practices for scanning and storing digital copies, also documentation, so creating detailed records of conservation treatments, importance of photographic documentation before, during, and after treatments, so overview of relevant conservation standards and guidelines. So professional development as well as opportunities for continued learn and networking with the conservation community. Also guest lectures, so inviting experts in the field to share insight and current trends in photographic conservation. And of course, collaboration with other institutions. Mentorship program is important as well, so establishing a mentorship system, so where experienced conservator guide less experienced colleagues, evaluation and feedback. So all these components are steps create a comprehensive training program that enhance the skill and knowledge of colleagues involved in conservation of photographic materials. So this is one of the examples. So in collaboration with the State Archive in Dubrovnik, we conducted a 4-day workshop of the protection of photographic heritage. And this workshop took place on the island of Korčula. We spent like 4 days there, during which we introduced participants to key aspects of photograph conservation and preservation as well. So topics covered included the identification of photographic materials, basic treatments, cleanings method, and safe handling practices, and as well the history of photography and the digitization projects. Process, my English. Yes, we had the opportunity to so I had the opportunity to intern at an ADCC in the States, and over these years we had collaborated with our colleagues, and collaboration has continued. So a few years ago we had organized a symposium on the preservation of photographic materials, and we presented 3-day professional symposium development for conservators, archivists, museums, and administrators, and other involved in the care of photographs. So the goal of the symposium were to foster discussion on advancing the preservation of photographic materials in the region and to promote more professional development opportunities. So reach a broader network of professionals as well, and strengthen connections among past participants of NADCC's training program. So in addition to all the workshops held at the Croatian State Archives, so we conducted, as you can see, a wide range of workshops at various other institutions as well. So I have some examples of conservation treatments, and in addition to the photographic materials from the State Archive, we have materials from other institutions such as museums, private collectors, private owners, libraries, and churches as well. So since not all custodians are well informed about the processes and methods for preserving and handling photographic materials, so various types of damages can occur. So in this treatment, the following procedures were performed by dry cleaning, dry neutralization, flattening, and consolidations of tears using Japanese paper and starch-based adhesive. So retouching was carried out on the missing sections, and documentation and photograph documentation were prepared before, during, and of course after the conservation and restoration work. So before starting any work, a proposal is prepared outlining the task to be undertaken based on the type of damage. After the work is completed, a report is written detailing the completed task, and this is a kind of brief, very brief report, looks like after conservation work for the owner, of course. So it is also very challenging to choose right method for treatment, right color for in-paint, and combine all the needs, especially from private owners, if I might say, because I would venture to say that private collectors are kind of sensitive. The question is always arise to why they need to stabilize the photographs. Is it for exhibition purposes? Is it for storage by collectors? Or they usually sell after conservation treatment is done? So in such cases, most want the photographic material to be restored to its original and undamaged condition, which is often impossible due to the damage the photograph has sustained. In this photograph has suffered from dust and mold. So in some places there was a mechanical damage, especially on the surface, like scratches. And after treatment proposal, so cleaning from the dust was made very gentle to mold areas with kneaded razor. We tried to reduce mold spots by using solvents, ethanol and water solution 4:1, and tapping with the cotton swabs. So at the end we did some in paint. So collaboration with the curator from the Ivan Meštrović Museum began in 2017. And we was invited to look at the current state of photographs and to agree on the most appropriate way to protect and store photographs. So in addition to numerous photographs, there was a small number of collodion positive prints, few postcards, but most of the photographic collection considered on silver gelatin photographs. And the analysis of photographic techniques that was performed was the type of damages that have occurred over time in the photographs, and guidelines and plans for more complete and comprehensive preservation of the photographic collection. So this valuable collection from the library of Meštrović Atelier has more than 4,000 photographic positives, and as I said before, they contain mostly silver gelatins and small number of collodion positives. So the artistic process was documented by photographer Svetozar Prodanović, which was Meštrović's best, let's say, friend and photographer as well. So what were the short and long-term goals? Established the short goal was to set, and that was kind of realistic, to set safetiness of the collection. To accomplish this, the collector or holding institution must take into consideration proper housing, containers, so environmental conditions, and necessary to prevent damaging, so to improve condition of the photographs. And the long-term goal was to actually, we call it threat assessment. So in the practice of determining the credibility and seriousness of potential threats, as well as the probability that the threat will become actually a reality. So the imaging of materials is a necessary part of long-term preservation of cultural heritage. And while the physical conditions of objects will change over time, imaging serves as a way to document and represent heritage in a moment in time of the life of the item. So imaging can serve to enhance research and study of cultural heritage. And actually how they have been accomplished. So for now, thanks to the funds received, the staff of the Meštrović Museum has managed to raise awareness about the preservation of photographic material by procuring adequate storage materials in the form of photoliners. And as part of the cooperation in our lab, storage packaging was made for non-standard format of photographic materials due to size, to their dimensions actually. And as a part of the project, fellow curator from the Meštrović Museum achieved excellent cooperation in raising funds and enabled to further raise awareness of these valuable materials. So this great contribution has became much more than a classic photo documentation, because today it is almost valued as a work of art. So these photographs are actually in the service of sculpture. So they intertwine with each other. And as a part of the exhibition, a valuable catalog was prepared as lasting contribution for this project. And cooperation continues. So depending on the funds received, the protection of storage packaging will continue and transferring of knowledge, and of course with better quality furniture and material for storage space. So it was about 10 silver gelatin DOP prints, which was bothered the most, let's say. It was damaged the most. So in addition to identification of photographic techniques and mounting methods, we documented the types of damages that had occurred over time, and we wrote proposals describing suitable conservation treatments and the proper storage and protection of the photographs. So it has accompanied by general guidelines to ensure more complete and comprehensive, let's say, preservation. That was actually one of the most relevant photographic collections for Meštrović Museum. And actually causes of damage, there was interior and external. So the interior was the nature of photo material and chemical processing on some of them, and external was of course mechanical and biological. Actually it was improper handling and unfortunately the nature of the surrounding to the photographic material. So the photographs collection is built to sustain advanced research in studies and to preventive heritage in perpetually for all professionals. And however, it is not possible to comprehensively collect photographs of national significance across all aspects of social, economical, and cultural life. And therefore, the library chooses to prioritize certain areas in order to focus to limited resource sometimes, and to either build on existing collection straightness, to fill gaps in collections, or to respond to the changing needs for researches now and in the future. So the photographs priorities was grouped into 3 categories. Ongoing priorities, which is those areas in which the library strives to build on its existing collection straightness, and areas of research interest. Emerging priorities, so those areas where there are signs of an emerging research trend and therefore will require the library to start developing strategies for photographic material to be collected to support the research need in the future. And proactive priorities, so one of 2 areas where there is a known gap in the library's collection or the national documentation, and the library proactively strives to build relationships and collect in order to fill these gaps. So how was the survey funded? Was actually financed by the Ministry of Culture and the city of Zagreb, of course the Department of Culture, and this detailed plan and program is always written, was taken, and the purpose of the supervision, survey, and certain amount of requested according to the estimate we determined at the first view of the photo library. So what method did we use? After we meet at the Photo Library Museum, we did a condition report, so including general information, which is name of the institution, inventory, catalog numbers, dates, etc. Photograph documentation, so object description, and then we continued with questions, collections, personnel, condition, procedures, how they use collection, are there collection care program, Does staff repair any of the general collection? Who does it, etc. So, and about exhibit, are materials exhibited, loaned, or for exhibitions as well? And the storage, are the materials ordinarily stored in the areas where we'll examine them? And here is another example of conservation treatments which we can use at the State Archive. So these are 4 photographs actually by the contemporary artist Lasta Delimar. So the photographs are silver gelatin with a matte surface. So due to inadequate handling, because unfortunately they suffered during the exhibition, the photographs are in poor condition, evidenced by mechanical damage such as cracks, dents, scratches, and damage to the emulsion layer. So chemical damage from dust and contact with harmful materials like glue, coffee, and some other unknown stains has left permanent mark on these photographs. So according to the proposed work plan, following steps were carried out. So the proposal outlined what and how to work, and with responses to these questions directed by investigative documentation and structural principles. The proposal allows for the forecasting of conservation and restoration tasks, and the preparation of the proposal was guided by a visual assessment of the damage, and later by the results of tests analysis which was conducted. So the sequence of phases was determined based on customized general template after deciding which phases to undertake. So due to improper handling, the photograph is in poor condition, exhibiting mechanical damage such as cracks, dents, and scratches, as well as damage to the emulsion layer. And chemical damage has also occurred, resulting from exposure to dust and contact with harmful substances, including glue, like I said, coffee, and other, unfortunately, unidentified stains, which had left mark. So, work proposal was documentation. So each step in the performance of conservation restoration procedure is described. Then photo documentation, every step of conservation restoration procedure was photographed. Mechanical removal of impurities, so is performed to remove accumulated impurities from the surface using dusting brush. Identification, so it is necessary to identify photographic processes in order to know how to approach the best restoration of the photograph. Observation of damage under denolite microscope, so it works to gain a better insight to the damage and contamination of the artwork. Wet polishing of impurities, so it is done for the purpose of long-term preservation, since particles of impurities can contribute to further damage and chemical decomposition of the object, and then removing the varnish from the object surface. So this is done for the purpose of preservation, so that there is no chemical damage to the object. And retouching, so it is done in order to achieve better aesthetic and visual integrity watercolor was used. And of course, at the end, instructions for storage. So about the partial mending in this case, I would give some following points. So the first one, the purpose of metal cellulose in conservation. So metal cellulose is commonly used in photograph conservation because it's a reversible adhesive that provides structural support without permanently altering the photograph. It's water-soluble cellulose ether, so making it easy to control and apply in delicate procedures like reothering photo layers that have lifted from the substrate. Application processes, about application technique. So metal cellulose is applied with a fine brush, ensuring minimal disturbance to the emulsion of substrate. Drying method used after the adhesive is applied was pressing under light weights and between blotter papers, which help maintain the flattened state of the photograph. Why 4% metal cellulose? So the 4% concentration is ideal for conservation work, as it provides balance between adhesive strength and ease of removal. So this specific percentage is chosen because of an adequate adhesion without oversaturating the photo surface. And challenges of partial mending. So common challenges that might arise is handling very brittle or sensitive emulsion layers that might further crack or lift during the process. So we might have potential issues of reversibility to testing before treatment ensures that the metal cellulose won't cause staining or leave residues. So reversibility and ethics. Key aspect of conservation is ensuring that the treatment is reversible without further damaging the photographs. So metal cellulose water solubility makes it easily reversible if needed. And then we have preventive care post-treatment. So the importance of proper storage conditions after the treatment are mandatory to prevent the photograph from experiencing further, lifting or damage. And humidity and temperature control are very important as well. So I will just say a few words about removing the varnish. So in order to remove surface impurities and the varnish layer without damaging it or completely removing it, the painted layer, so it's important to find the right tool. Solution of distilled water and ethanol was in ratio of 30/70, and that was used actually, and which was applied to the object using wooden sticks and cotton wool with light friction. And something about retouching, actually in paint. So considering the damage caused to the silver gelatin photographs, which is a 3-layered process, paper, binder, baryta actually, and emulsion. So it is necessary to replace the layer of fake baryta before retouching, and after the parts are coated, it's important to leave it for, let's say, a few minutes for the baryta to dry well, and then the photograph is ready for in paint. So we took some cremer pigments, watercolors paints, and they are used actually for retouching parts. And colors are applied in thin, translucent layers. Ďakujem.